So, when this was first advertised as being a super secret talk, it was a bit of a joke, and then I thought, it's a really good opportunity to take a massive bite at the hand that feeds me, because no one's going to video it and put it on the internet, and none of you are going to tweet the more embarrassing slides, are you? So a lot of the work that I do as a B2B tech copywriter is around content marketing. So you've probably noticed the internet steadily filling up with blog posts and ebooks and white papers and stuff where companies kind of share their expertise with you without a particular focus on selling anything, because they just kind of want you to think well of them. Content Marketing Institute says, content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating, distributing valuable, relevant and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. Right, that one's easier. Valuable Content, who are based up in Bristol, lovely agency, say, help, don't sell, talk, don't yell, show, don't tell. Now, we'll be going into this in a minute, because when we say this talk is, we need to talk about content marketing, it's not, hey, I'm going to tell you why content marketing is so great, but part of the reason for it is that people now do more of their research than they ever did before online. So people, fairly early in their buying process, if you're a company, would engage with a salesperson at another company, and now just this small but significant move where people do more research before they buy things. So you help them with that process. You give them more of your knowledge, more of your stuff. In doing so, you prove that you're good at what you say you do, because you're not going, we're experts in this. You're just acting like an expert in that subject, right? So far, so good, And Seth reckons that content marketing is all that's left. And so, we have an internet that is filling up with all these things. These are what I write every day. All of these things, so they're great, aren't they? All these tweets and podcasts and cheat sheets and Q&As and interviews and articles and reports and white papers and SlideShare rants. I think that's my favourite job, writing rants on SlideShare. But there is just this one minor sticking point, which is that almost all of it is utter crap. Not the bit that I do, but 95% of content marketing is shit. There was a report just recently by a company called Beacon, and they looked at 1 billion odd interactions online. And they found some interesting stuff. They found that 90% of all the audience engagement went to 5% of the content. So all of that content is basically useless. It's basically filling up the internet for no reason, and it is making it harder for people to buy stuff. It was originally supposed to make it easier for people to buy stuff. Now there was an agency called Octopus Group. They did a study. Half of business-to-business buyers find it harder to buy things than they did before, because there's so much bloody content to wade through. That report found one retail brand in 1 year made 50,000 branded content assets in a single year. That's one company. And it gets better. So you've got all these people this is a report from the Content Marketing Institute and Marketing Profs. They're B2B benchmarking reports in North America. It's one of their many reports. It's fairly representative. Here in the yellow, we have the proportion of marketers who expect to make more content in the next year, 2014, 15, 16, 17, more content! The green one is the ones that expect to increase their budget for that content in the next. Not just that there's more content, They're spending less per item of content. Look, there's a big gap and it's growing and it's getting bigger. These are the people who are spending more. These are the people who expect to make more stuff. This gap is the people who, these are making more or making significantly more content with less or the same money. What do you think is going to happen to the quality? Take a wild guess. This is Doug Kessler from Velocity Partners. As early as 2013, he predicted we are all about to be buried in crap. And this isn't someone that doesn't like content marketing. This is the creative director of the Content Marketing Institute's Agency of the Year is saying this. So, we've got more and more stuff, and the quality's going down. Marketers just shoveling stuff into the internet. Remind you of anything? It's just what happened with email. Before that, it happened with direct marketing. And so, just recently, Mark Ritson, and a number of other contrarians started saying, is content marketing a load of bollocks? And it's a fair question to ask. However, that's a good question to ask if you are someone who's got a column in Marketing Week and you have to sell copies of Marketing Week to people who spend all their time thinking and worrying about marketing. For those of us that are actually worried about selling stuff, there is a far more important question to ask. How do I get me some of that 5%? Because that's the 5% that gets 90% of the audience interaction. That's the stuff that people care about. That's the stuff that makes people buy things. How do I get me some of that 5? Okay, 3 things. Number 1, be targeted in what you do. Don't just make stuff that's kind of for everyone. Have a clear idea who your reader is and what they want. Have a clear idea who your reader isn't and who you don't want to appeal to. And get weirdly, geekily targeted about your subject. It will help you to make great content that really engages with people. I mean, well, you can't really see these on here, but this is a guy called Guy who works for, do you know Spirent up in Paynton Way? They make GPS testing equipment, and so anything, your phone, if you're developing a new smartphone and you've got to choose one GPS chip over another, they're the guys that make the thing that can predict what the satellites are going to be like in 20 years' time when Europe puts up the Galileo system and can simulate all the signals. Or GPS disruption, people using GPS jammers in their cars so people can't trace them, and then driving past the airport, and then suddenly all the airport's landing systems go screwed. Happened in Newark. Some guy didn't want anyone knowing where he was on his lunch break, disabled the entire airport. What you can't see from here is these engagement figures. These are tiny possible target markets. But to the people who are interested in this stuff, they are really interested in this stuff. Guy is now connected to all of his potential market. Guy gets invited to speak at conferences all over the world because of a series of LinkedIn Pulse posts that we wrote for him. It really, really works. It's geekily targeted. This is our podcast that we do. We get about 300 or 400 listens a month on this. It's not a massive audience. But among the B2B agencies in London and around the world, we have quite a following. We found out we got a big project through for working for a big mobile provider that you've heard of, through an agency in London, and the director of the agency in that London was like talking to us as a fan of the podcast. Small audience speaking with great relevance to them. The natural extension of that is ABM, account-based marketing. It's the next big thing that you will hear a lot about. This is a report that we wrote for TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, about the retail sector. And we wrote 30 bespoke reports, each of this one's for Tesco, about to people who they wanted to talk to, they wanted to get in a room with. So you're a consultant, you want to get in a room with them, we're going to write you a whole report, Mr. Tesco, and this is Tesco. We're going to write you a whole report, and we'll put that on your desk. We wrote 30 of these reports. They got 15 meetings and 75 million quid's worth of pipeline. It's all right, isn't it? Not bad. Okay, so ask yourself, second question. Well, no, first, sorry, who's it for? Think about your content, think, who is it for? It's not you. So many brands just like to hear the sound of their own voice. You know? If you're really just creating content to amuse yourself, forget it. There's too much stuff on the internet already. Make something that's for someone else. And make something that helps them. That really helps them with a real problem that they have in their lives or their buying process. Be useful. It's a really good place to start. It's a good quote from Laura Drake. Nobody likes to be sold to, but we love our problems to be solved. This is what content marketing, this is the heart of what content marketing is all about. And you can help people in loads of ways, depending on what your market is. So this is Which Trusted Traders? 5 steps to look after your laptop. Beaches where dogs are allowed. This is this website is ugly as hell. I bet you it is one of the most visited websites to do with Cornwall. I bet you it is, because it's really high on Google if you search for where you can take your dog. You know, where do you find the best fish and chips? What's better, a Gibson ES335 or a Gibson ES339? Let's put them next to each other and play them. If you are in a process of buying a £2,000 semi-acoustic guitar, you're probably going to want to hear what they sound like, and then go into that shop and buy some. Also, those guys are really funny, which helps. Mainly, this is your most important tool. Pad and paper. Put it whether it's on the phone or you're taking email inquiries or face-to-face. Whenever you talk to a customer, when they ask you a question, write the question down. Because you'll notice some questions keep coming up. That's where your content starts. Or they might ask you a question that's really interesting. But actually, there's a really interesting answer, but it's stuff that your customer is interested in, stuff that will help them. By the way, and I'm sorry, 2 words about thought leadership, because a lot of the time for brands, when they talk about thought leadership, it's about what they want to tell you, rather than what you want to know. So, if anyone, as a B2B brand, not a great local charity, but a social enterprise, but if anyone describes themselves as a thought leader, burn them. Or at the very least, just tie them to a stake, douse them with petrol, and just threaten them with a lighter. Ask yourself, who cares when you're creating your content? Who cares? Genuinely. Third thing, be different. And this, when I work with business-to-business tech brands, is the hardest thing. Because the marketers are creative people. And then they work with people who are really not creative people. And they go, we want to sound different. We want to sound, we want content that sets us apart from our competitors. And then the other people go, oh, it doesn't look too much like what the other guys are doing, does it? Well, that's the point! So this is hard, because it's hard to be imaginative, because you have to be the first. Doug Kessler, who I quoted earlier, was speaking in this slide share. And this was 2013, where everyone was drinking the content marketing Kool-Aid, and he came up with the biggest single threat to content marketing is content marketing. And how spookily accurate he was. This, everyone else this is in a market of business-to-business tech marketing, right, where everyone else is really business-like. And they come along and do this. This has had 3.5 million views, this slide share. just because, and it's the one everyone knows, because it's got crap on it in big letters. And you just don't do that in that market, when you didn't then. Everyone else has copied them now. You know, or what else is different? Dumb Ways to Die, right? Dumb Ways to Die is different, and you've probably, most of you have heard it and can hum the song. Yeah, it's different because no one had done that before. We made a board game. We literally sent people who we wanted to work with a board game based upon content marketing and the different kinds of writers and the different kinds of content asset. Be different, be creative. Don't do me too. Okay, that's not digital. Ask yourself, who else is doing this? But normally, you get asked that question because, well, how do we know it works? Who else is doing it? The point is, if someone else is doing it, don't do it. Do something else. If no one else is doing it, okay, it might be because it's a really dumb idea, maybe, but it could also be a really good place to start. Be the 5%.
So how about the popular theory that next year about 75% of content is going to be on video? Where does content, like physically writing stuff, fit in there?
Yeah, absolutely. 75% of content next year will be on video is a stat I've been hearing since about 2013. And every year you do the December and January roundup, podcasts and blogs. And everyone goes, it's video next year. Next year's the year for video. And I don't know. It may happen. From my point of view, that's fine because we script a load of videos. So that's fine by us. We've just generally seen a trickle in videos. This supposed explosion hasn't happened yet in our market. That's all I can say. So far, it's just been a kind of steady level for the last several years in terms of the projects that we get involved in and things. But yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm very much on the same thing. Video's very good, but I don't think it's quite where everyone or where the experts think it is quite yet.
No, there's lots of different. There's where and when you are when people consume the media as well. Yeah. A good video is cool. Bad ones are really dull.
Yeah, that's the exact one.
Okay.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.